Okay, welcome everybody to the March 2021 SAT calculator section walkthrough. Let's get into it. Alright, a sample of water was taken from each of 10 different locations in a pond. The pH of each sample was measured. The measurements are summarized in the frequency table below. How many samples have a pH of 7.4 or greater? So that's going to be 4 plus 3, 7. In 2015, the city of Miami had a population of 441,000 people and an area of 36 square miles. What was the population density of Miami and people per square mile in 2015? Okay, so we can use the word per as kind of like a division symbol. So let's do 441,000 divided by 36. If we plug that into our calculator, we will get option B. Number 3. I'm going to skip all this. How does the median diameter of the plates from the Roman Empire R compare to the median diameter of the plates from ancient Greece G? Okay. So we're looking at medians in a box plot here. And remember, in a box plot, the line in the middle of this kind of box is going to be the median. So here the median is going to be between 10 and 15. Here the median's almost 20. So that means R is going to be less than G. Option A. The combustion of glucose releases energy. The ratio of grams of glucose combusted to kilocalories of energy released is 12.0 to 45.0. How many grams of glucose must be combusted to provide? Okay, we're going to set up a proportion here. So we know that grams of glucose to energy released is 12 to 45. And that's going to equal x over 85.5, right? Because we need to know how many grams of glucose, or how many grams of glucose we need to combust this much kilocalories of energy. So if we cross multiply, we're going to get 12 times 85.5 equals 45x, and we're going to divide by 45 on both sides. I'm going to plug this into my calculator really quick. So 12 times 85.5. I'm going to divide that by 45, and that's going to give us 22.8, or option C. The function f is defined by f of x equals x squared minus 7. What is the value of f of 3? Okay, cool. Plug in 3 for x. 3 squared minus 7. 3 squared is 9. 9 minus 7 is 2. Done. The probability of an unfair coin landing head side up is 0.6. An unfair coin, okay. A student tossed this coin into the air 9 times. It landed tails upside 5 times and head side up 4 times. Okay. What is the probability that the coin will land heads side up on the 10th toss? It's 0.6, right? Remember, they literally tell us the answer. The probability of an unfair coin landing head side up is 0.6. So, regardless of the toss, the probability is always going to be 0.6 for each independent toss. Remember, the tosses are independent of each other and do not rely on how many you've already done. That's how probability works. Alright, number 7. Two histograms show the distribution of data set A and B respectively. Data set B is the result of removing the outlier. Which of the following statements about the means of data set A and data set B is true? The means of data set A and B are not the same. So that's wrong. Because data set A has an outlier here, which is going to boost the mean a pretty good amount. And then once we remove that, the mean is going to drop. So data set A should actually be, data set A should be greater than data set B. The mean of data set A, I should say, which is option B. Alright. Jaime drove a car from West Union, Minnesota through North Dakota to Miles City, Montana. The total distance she traveled through each state is shown in the figure. Alright. The distance d miles Jaime drove as a function of time t in hours since she started driving is modeled by the equation d equals 60t. According to the model, what distance in miles had Jaime drove 3 hours after she started driving? Okay, I'm going to plug 3 into this equation here, so d is going to equal 16 times 3, so the distance after 3 hours is 180 miles. Option D. What interval represents all values of t during which Jaime drove in North Dakota? Okay. So as we can see, North Dakota is kind of in this middle section here. And we know it is not going to be... Well, let's see. If D is 60t and we have 120 miles at the very end of Minnesota, right? So we have 120 miles, and that's going to equal 60 times t. So we can figure out how many hours. So let's divide by 60. That's going to be 2 hours, right? So Minnesota was a total of 2 hours. North Dakota was a total of, let's see, 360 equals 60t divided by 60, so 6 equals t. Minnesota was a total of, or North Dakota was a total of 6. This is a total of 2, and the first Minnesota would have been a total of 2 as well. So she wants what interval represents all values of t during which Jaime drove in North Dakota. Okay, well, she started at 2, and she ended at 8, right? Because she ended at 2 plus 6, which is 8. So it's going to be between 2 and 8, which is option B. All right, number 10. The graph shows the number of algae cells grown during an experiment in millions of cells per milliliter. Okay, between which 2 days was the growth the greatest? So we're looking for the greatest change between 2 days. And I think that is going to be this segment right here, right? It has the largest slope, which means that this is going to have changed the most for 1 day, because each of these are just 1 day at the end of the day, but this has the highest growth in number of cells per milliliter. So it's going to be between day 5 and 6, option B. Local restaurant gives teachers 20% discount on all their meals. If a teacher pays $14 for a meal after the discount was applied, what was the price of the meal before? Okay, we're going to call the price of the meal before, original. So she pays $14, right? So the original times up 80% of the price because of the 20% discount is going to equal $14. Now we can go ahead and divide by 0.8 to get our original price. So I'm going to plug that into my calculator. 14 divided by 0.8. 17.5, or option B. Alright. The frequency table above shows the distribution of the actual number of fluid ounces of water in a random sample of 80 to 20 ounce. Okay, whatever. Alright. Bottles are only sold if they contain at least 19.8, so right here. At least 19.8, but no more than 20.2, so right here. So these are the range of bottles that can be sold. Everything else is just, I guess, discarded. I don't know. If the proportion of bottles that can be sold is the same for the sample and the 16,000 20-ounce bottles produced at the plant each day, how many cannot be sold? Okay, so in this case, let's look at how many can be sold. Actually, how many cannot be sold from the ones that were given, right? So we have the ones that cannot be sold here is 1, right? Because 0 plus 1 is just 1. And then these all can be sold, so we're not going to look at that. We're going to look at these two, which is just another 1. Oops. Another 1, because 0 plus 1 is 1 again. So what that's going to tell us is that 2 out of however many bottles there are total cannot be sold, right? So that's going to be 1 plus 12. I'm going to add this in my calculator. 1 plus 12 plus 10 plus 31 plus 14 plus 11 plus 1. That's going to be 80 total bottles. So 2 out of the 80 bottles cannot be sold. Okay. And now we want how many bottles of 16,000 cannot be sold. So we're going to set up a proportion. So if 2 out of 80 cannot be sold, that means X amount of 16,000 can't be sold. We're going to cross multiply. 80x is going to equal 32,000. We're going to divide 32,000 by 80 in my calculator. And I get 400, option C. Cool. For the linear function, f, the table shows several values of x and their corresponding values of f of x. What is the y-intercept of the graph of y equals f of x in the plane? Alright, cool. So we're going to go ahead and find the slope first. And remember, we can use our slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to do these 2 points. Why not? So I'm going to say 14 minus 8 over negative 4 plus 2. That's going to be 6 over negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2, so the slope is going to be negative 3, right? So let's go ahead and fill that into our y equals mx plus b. Y equals negative 3x plus b. Now to find b, all we have to do is plug in each of these any of these points. Let's go ahead and plug in 3 comma negative 7. So we get negative 7 equals negative 3 times negative 3. Oops. Times 3. Not negative 3, right? Because our x value is 3. Plus b. So negative 7 equals negative 9 plus b, the answer to b is going to be 2. So the answer is C, because this is 2 as well. Awesome. Number 14. When a buffet restaurant charges $12 per meal, the number of meals it sells per day is 400. For each 50-cent increase to the price per meal, the number of meals sold per day decreases by 10. What is the price per meal that results in the greatest sales in dollars for meals each day? Okay, cool. So from $12 to $16, we have 8 50-cent increases, right? Because we go 12.50 and then we go 13, so on, so on, so on. That's going to be 8 until we get to 16. So if for each 50-cent increase the meals sold per day decreases by 10, then that means we have 400 minus 80 meals sold per day when we're charging $16. Now let's multiply that by the price of each meal, which is 16 for option A. And that's going to be 320 times 16. Let's see what that is. Oops. 320 times 16 is going to be $5,120. Okay. Now let's look at $20. From $12 to $20, we have 16 increases, 50-cent increases. So we're going to do 400 minus 160. And 400 minus 160 is going to be 240. And then we're going to multiply by the price of each meal, which is 20 in this case. And that's going to be 4,800. And if we keep doing this for each answer choice, we're going to see that they're each getting incrementally lower and lower. The answer is going to be A, because this is the most amount of money you can make. All right. Number 15. The scatter plot shows the relationship between two variables x and y. A line of best fit is also shown. What is an equation of the line of best fit? Cool. For linear function f of 2 equals 10, the graph of f of x in the xy plane has a slope of 3. Which of the following equations defines that? All right. So we know that the line has a slope of 3, right? So y equals 3x plus b. And now we're given a point here, 2, 10. If we plug this point into what we have so far, we can solve for b pretty easily. Let's go ahead and do that. So this is going to be 6 equals 10. Okay, we're going to subtract 6. So that means b is going to be 4. So we have y equals 3x plus 4. D. 7x plus 21 equals negative 2. What is the value of x plus 3? I'm just going to divide this whole thing by 7. Oops, what was that? 7. And then I get x plus 3 equals negative 2 over 7. It's going to be option D. The solution to the given system of equations is xy. What is the value of 3x plus y? Okay, interesting. So we're going to solve for x and y here. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and multiply this bottom equation by 2. So I can use elimination. So I get x plus 2y equals 10. And here I get 4x minus 2y equals 10. These are going to cancel out when I add down. I get 5x equals 20. X is going to be 4. I'm going to plug that 4 for x over here. So I get 4 plus 2y equals 10. Subtract, so I get y is 3. Now they want 3x plus y. Remember, x is 4. So we get 3 times 4 plus 3. 7 plus 3 is... 12 plus 3 is 15. The answer is going to be D. Almost messed up right there. All right, an advertising agency guarantees that its service will increase website traffic by 3.5% compared to each previous week. Which type of function best models the weekly guaranteed website traffic as the number of weeks increases? It's going to be increasing exponentially, right? And we can prove this by coming up with a number. Let's say we have 100 website traffic. If website traffic can even be quantified, let's just say it's 100. The next week, it's going to go up by 3.5%. So we can multiply 100 times 1.035, and we're going to get 103.5. And then the next week, we go again. We multiply this value by 1.035, and we're going to get 107.1225. As we can see, this is not increasing by the same value every time. It's getting bigger and bigger, meaning that it's increasing exponentially. All right, the scatter plot shows a data set of 11 points in the line of best fit for the data. For how many data points is the y value predicted by the line of best fit greater than the actual y value? Okay, so it's greater here, here, and here, right? The line overestimated the actual y value. So it is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dana is riding a 100-mile long bike race. The function, models the number of miles that she has remaining X hours after she starts the race. What is the best interpretation of f of 2 equals 4? Okay. Remember, X is hours, and we're plugging in 2 for X here, so that means 2 hours. We know that's going to be there somewhere. And then 100 minus 18X is going to be the number of miles she has remaining, right? So in this case, this is going to equal 64, so she has 64 miles remaining. So let's see which of those match up. So 64 miles, and no, not necessarily. No. 2 hours after she starts the race, she has 64 miles remaining. Perfect. Exactly what we said. Triangle ABC and triangle DEF each have an angle measuring 29, an angle measuring 54. Okay. That means these angles are the same as well. Which of the following statements is sufficient to prove triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF? Remember, congruency means that the triangles are the exact same. So the measure of angle EDF is 97. That would not prove their congruency, right? Because you can have two similar triangles with all the same angles, but they can have completely different proportions, right? They can be completely different and still be similar triangles, so it's not going to be B. The length of BC is equal to the length of EF. Right, that's gonna make sure that they are congruent. That makes sense to me, right? Because if this is 10, let's just say that's 10 and this is 10, that means that these sides are also going to be the same, and they're going to be the same exact triangle. The length of EF is 10. Let's see, option A. If the length of EF is 10, that doesn't tell us anything about the length of BC. That doesn't mean BC has to be 10. BC could be 20. It could be 15. It could be anything. So it's not going to be A. And it is not going to be D because we already know that. Cool. How many solutions does the equation this have? The answer is going to be 0. Because this is an absolute value function, it means that it can never be negative. Remember, the absolute value of anything cannot be negative, so that will never happen. It'll be 0. The solutions to the quadratic equation above are A and B. What is the value of A plus B? All right, let's go ahead and solve for the solutions to the quadratic equation above. What is the value? Oh, remember, what is this asking for? This is asking for the sum of the solutions. And in a quadratic, the sum of the solutions is going to be negative b over a. In this case, negative b is just negative 1. And then a is 3. Negative 1/3. It's going to be b. Alright, problem number 25. In the figure shown, point O is the center of the circle and the vertex of the square lies on the circle. Okay. If the area of the shaded region is 36 pi minus 18, what is the perimeter of the square? Okay. So we know that 18 is going to be the area of the square, and then the area of the entire circle, including the square, is going to be 36 pi. So we can set that 36 pi equal to the area, the formula for area of a circle to find the radius, pi r squared. Cancel out those pi's, so r is going to equal 6. Now if we look closely here, this is our radius, right? So that means this side length is going to be 6 right here. And as we can see, we've created two 45, 45, 90 triangles. And if you remember what a 45, 45, 90 triangle looks like, it looks like a little bit like this. Make that a little even. This is a 90. This is a 45, 45. This is going to be S, S, and this side right here is S root 2. In this case, our S root 2 is 6. So let's set those equal to each other. 6 is equal to S root 2. Let's divide by root 2. We can rationalize this by multiplying by root 2 over root 2, which is just 1. So we get 6 root 2 over 2. We can divide. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we get 3 root 2 as our side length. So if this is 3 root 2, this is also 3 root 2. This has to be 3 root 2. And this is 3 root 2. We want the perimeter, so we add all these up. 3 root 2 times 4, and we get 12 root 2, or option C. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression. Okay, there's a few ways you could do this. Personally, I would go ahead and graph each of these in your graphing calculator, right? I would graph this, this, and this. If they coincide perfectly, then this is true, which they do, so the answer is going to be 1 and 2. Now, if you don't have a graphing calculator, something you can do is plug a random number, let's choose 5 or something. Plug it into this function. Whatever you get here, so we would get, let's see, 5 to the 4th, which is 625, minus 8 times 25, which is 200, plus 16. So we're going to get 425 plus 16, plus 16, plus 15. So that's going to be 441, right? If we plug it in 5 into here, we get 441. Now, if you plug into 5 into here, and you do get 441, that means they are equivalent. And that is true for both of these, so the answer is going to be C. Quick little trick there. All right, 27. Each year, the value of an investment increases by 2.5% of the previous year's value. The initial value of the investment was $500. Which of the following? Okay, so this is a classic y equals a b to the t function problem. And this is an exponential function, right? Because you have that little exponent of t where t is in years. Or actually, I'll just make that x because they want x years. So I'll make it y equals a b to the x. A is always going to be your starting value, and b is going to be your growth rate. Okay, so in this case, we have y equals our starting value, 500, times our growth rate, which is 2.5%, but remember it's increasing, so it's going to be 1.025, and then to whatever x power. So our answer is going to be B. How many solutions does a given system of equations have? Okay, so if we multiply this line by 12, we get 60x minus 12y equals 108. And then our bottom one is negative 60x plus 12y equals negative 108. Okay. Now we see that these lines are actually the same, right? If we multiply this by negative 1, we get 60x minus 12y equals 108, meaning these are the same line at the end of the day. I mean, we have the same line, it just means infinitely many solutions, option D. Bridges have spaces between their sections to allow for expansion. Okay, whatever. The size of a gap with width W of t in inches is a linear function of temperature T in degrees Fahrenheit F. Okay. For a certain bridge, the gap width is 28.75 inches at 40 and is 1.875 at 100. Which of the following defines the relationship between temperature and gap width? Okay. So 2.875 at 40. So if I plug in 40 for T, I should get 2.875 for W of T. So let's go ahead and do that for A. So plug in here. So 40 minus 40 is 0. So this cancels out, and we get 2.875. Works out. Now, if we plug in 1.875, or we plug in 100 degrees Fahrenheit here, we get 100 minus 40, which is 60. 60 over negative 60 is just negative 1, plus 2.875. That is 1.875. So A works, and the answer is A. If you plug these 2 points into any of these, they will not work. So these are out. The number of books in a library increased by 30% from 2002 to 2014. There were X books in the library in 2002. Which expression represents the number of books in the library in 2014 in terms of X? Well, we're just increasing it by 30%, and to increase by 30%, we just multiply by 1.3. So the answer is C. And another way to do this is also to you can plug in some numbers, make up some fake numbers. So let's say the number of books in the library in 2002 was 100, right? And we ended up with whatever many books. It would be 130. We know that. So to solve for whatever x is, we can just divide and we get 1.3 times x. Cool. On to the free response. In a survey of 240 television viewers, 3/5 indicated that they like comedies, and some indicated that they do not like comedies, and the rest did not respond. If one of the 240 viewers is selected at random, the probability is 1/15 that the viewers selected did not respond. How many of the 240 viewers indicated that they do not like comedies? Okay, I'm going to get these two fractions into common denominator, right? So I'm going to make this, let's see. I'm going to make this, I'm going to multiply by 3 on top and bottom. So I got 9/15 here, right? So 9/15 indicated that they like comedies. Like would be 9/15. Did not respond was 1/15. Did not respond is 1/15. So if we add these together, we're only left with 5/15 of the population that could indicate that they did not like comedies. Because there's only 3 categories, right? Like, didn't respond, and don't like. Don't like has to be 5/15 or 1/3. Oops. So we got 1/3. But I just realized that they're asking for how many of the 240 viewers. So 1/3, it's going to be 1/3 of those 240, which is 80. Cool. What is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept of the graph of y equals 3 to the x plus 9? Y-coordinate of the y-intercept. Remember, y-intercept occurs when x is 0. So plug in 0 for x. We get anything to the 0 power is 1. 1 plus 9 is 10. Done. Triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF, where angle A corresponds to angle D. What is the value of cosine of f? Okay, to find the cosine of f, we can just find the cosine of C because those two angles correspond and these are similar triangles. Let's go ahead and find the cosine of C. Remember, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. In this case, our adjacent side is 24 and our hypotenuse is 30. So 24 divided by 30 is 0.8. Cool. Alright. The graph shows the power capacity for the 9 countries that had the greatest geometrical. What is the capacity of the country that had the median? Alright, be careful. Be careful with these types of problems. Don't just be like, okay, what's the middle one of all these? You're going to get Japan, probably, right? That's not correct. Because remember, the median is the middle value when all the data values are organized from least to greatest. So let's go ahead and do that. So the least is going to be, I'm going to just use some initials. El Salvador is going to be the least. And then after El Salvador, we get Iceland. After Iceland, we get, let's see. Oh, it's not going to be Iceland, sorry. After El Salvador should be Japan. Then we're going to get Iceland. Oh, so we finished this one, and this one are all out. After that, we're going to get New Zealand, then Italy. NZ, then Italy. And then we're going to get Indonesia, Philippines, and United States. So Indonesia, Philippines, and US. Now we can find the medium. 1, 2, 3. Hold on, did I forget a country? Philippines, United States. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, did I forget Mexico? Yeah. Okay, I forgot Mexico, but Mexico should go after Italy, so it should be right here. Mexico. So I'll cross that off, and the median's going to be Italy. So it's going to be 863. Right, because Italy has 863. Cool. Alright, line L is shown in the xy plane, and the point with coordinates 2, c is on line L. What is the value of c? Alright, so the equation of this line, let's find out the slope first. Rise over run, remember? This is going to be a negative slope. So we got negative 4 over 4. That's going to be a negative 1 slope. So we got y equals negative x plus, and then we know that y-intercept is 4, so plus 4. And now we want to find the y value when x is 2. Well, we can just plug 2 in for x, and we get 2. And we can confirm that, right, by just saying, what's it called? Oh, wait, no, we can't confirm that. Wow, we got this wrong on the test, I believe. Wait, what? Alright, problem number 35. Line L is shown on the xy plane with, okay, what is the y value of c? Cool. So we need to find the y value when x is 2, and the slope of this line is going to be negative 4/5. Okay, so we get y equals negative 4/5 x plus some y-intercept, and we know b is going to be 4 because it intercepts the y-axis at 4 right there. So let's plug in 2 for x to find the y value when x is 2. That's going to be y equals negative 8/5 plus 4. And then 4 is just going to be the same as 20/5. So negative 8/5 plus 20/5 is going to be, 12/5. 12/5 should be your answer. Alright, 36 and 37 refer to the following information. Table gives the typical adult weight ranges and lifespans for African and Asian elephants in the wild. Based on the table, what is the typical minimum weight? Okay. Of an African elephant in the wild, typical minimum weight. Okay, typical minimum weight is here, and we want African elephant. So right here, 2.5. So we get 2.5, not 0.25, 2.5, and we're going to use a unit conversion here, right? We know that 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. And here they give this to us in tons. So we get, here we get 2.5 tons. We're going to multiply that by 1 ton on the bottom because we want these units to cancel out, right? And then we're going to do 2,000 pounds on the top. These are going to cancel. So we get 2.5 times 2,000, which is going to be, 2.5 times 2,000 should be 5,000. That's going to be your answer. Based on the data in the table, the typical lifespan of an elephant is p% greater than the, okay, what is the value of p? Okay, so we're looking at this right here, and remember, to get percent increase or percent change, we need to use our equation, which is new value minus old value over the old value times 100. In this case, our old value is just going to be our less value, which is 60. So we get 70 minus 60 over 60 times 100. And if we do this, we will get 10 divided by 60. 10 divided by 60 in our calculators, which is going to be 0.16667, and we're just going to multiply that by 100. So we get 16.7 as our answer. Table above shows several values of x and their corresponding values of f of x. The function f is defined by f of x equals mx plus b. Remember your constants, what is the value of b? Remember, b is the y-intercept here, so we need to find the slope. So let's go ahead and use our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to find the slope. So 151 minus 106 over 3 minus 2. Let's plug that in my calculator. 151 minus 106, 44 over 1. So the slope is 44. We need to find b, and to find b, we can just plug in any of these points. Let's plug in this point right here. 106 equals 88, right? Because I plugged in 2 for x, so I multiplied by 2. Plus b, subtract 88 on both sides. So we get 106 minus 88, which is 18, equals b. And that should be it for the calculator section. Hope you enjoyed.